yesterday. So that's going to bring about interesting times, I think, for many, many people. So we'll see what happens there. And then there was the devastating shootings that happened yesterday as well. So really, really sad. And I know that the police community will be feeling every minute of that. We'll really have to wait and see about what's behind it. But I put a big shout out to them because I know it'll hit all of them hard.
Yeah. And the poor innocent neighbour who just was being a good Samaritan, apparently going to see if he could help and what was going on, and got caught in the crossfire, and unfortunately he lost his life as well. I was just listening to the interview about that, so that's definitely sad, and 2 young lives lost over there in Chinchilla. So yes, it is quite sad, Kim.
Yeah, very sad. Yeah. Over to you, Lance.
I'm going to say it's extremely sad, but for so many different reasons. I had my children grow up with one of those young men, and he's one of triplets. So his family's completely, utterly devastated. 26-year-old, was in the same grade as my oldest son. Good family. They're a really good family. We were involved with them through school and rugby and all sorts of events. And their dad was a copper. So it's going to hit home pretty hard for them. Interesting, though, no one's saying who shot the neighbour. So he could have been shot by police in the ruckus. And I'm going to bet that these boys have been sacrificed to bring in stricter gun control than what we've already got. That's my feeling. And time will prove me either right or wrong, I suppose, but put nothing past these scumbags. The people running these organisations obviously involved in some pretty sick stuff, so they wouldn't think twice about wasting a lot of life. And in fact, we're living right through that now, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Where they injected everybody.
Yeah.
So make no mistake, this is a bigger story than what's on the surface.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Like, if you look at them rolling out their plans of where we've come from and the acceleration of what they're doing, the next step is to disarm. It's exactly what they want to do. So what better way to do that than to have a couple of the boys in blue go down?
And I say let them disarm us, because we know that everything that's happening is to our advantage in this. We want to stay lawful. We want to stay peaceful. This is how we win. This is not a time in history to use violence against them. So I'm a big believer in what's happening. It's unique in history, and we're playing for the whole sandpit, and we're going to win the whole sandpit, which is going to be magic. But we don't win the sandpit with violence. So I've said that from day one. We win this with love, and it's going to take a lot for people to get their head around, but they're simple words: love thy neighbour as thyself. Forgive people their trespasses. This is where we're going. If we don't learn these simple new principles, new old principles, we're never going to create this amazing new world that we're all on the journey to create. So everyone just stay focused.
I just want to add a bit to that too, Lance, because what you're saying is exactly right. And if you look right throughout history, these different wars, no matter what form they take, have always incurred some kind of violence. And whether that is with people fighting with guns, or it's an information war, or it's a war on our bodies, as this one is, it really doesn't matter. But what you're saying is correct, is that everything has all been about some sort of violence. And moving forward, we can't have that. If we are going to make a better world, then we really have to change the mindset realistically of the entire world. And that seems like a big stretch at the moment, but it's not. It's doable. And if people stop focusing on the negative things that are coming out, if people stop getting on their Telegram every day and having a look at all the negative stories that come out, which are mostly from the same source, your information and your misinformation, and they start focusing on the positive. Imagine what would happen if the television companies started broadcasting love, started broadcasting a vision of what a better future would be. The world would turn around in a nanosecond. Well, maybe not a nanosecond, but very quickly.
No, I think you're right, because that feeling is contagious. We saw it in Canberra with the good people that turned up to protest our belligerent government. It really was a love fest. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but it formed instantaneously, and people walked into that environment and they were captured. They were captured by the essence of what was happening. It was quite incredible. So we have the potential as a species to do that. We just need to now create that as our new reality. And I know we get bogged down in the day-to-day lives, and things piss us off, and we have challenges, but it really is, that's where the focus has got to be. It's got to be on forgiveness and understanding, trust and equity. We bring these principles into our life, and that will foster love, and that's the way we change.
It will. And one of the things that we talk about, Anthony, in our presentations all the time, is that we've been so indoctrinated in fear. It's what we're brought up on in schools. It's what they teach. And that fear becomes quite a deep indoctrination. And it's really time right now for people to start having a look at those things, start seeing what our teachings have been about, start assessing whether it's actually real, whether the history we've taught is real, because we know it's not. And start really having a look at what resonates with them, rather than jumping into just another fear narrative and feeding it. Because when you do that, then you give it energy.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we've got to change.
It's certainly been a long, hard slog over this last 3 years for a lot of people. I want to ask you guys in your own opinions or thoughts, and maybe our listeners would like to jump in on this one as well. Where do you think we went so wrong with what's been going on and the situation that we now find ourselves in? And we talked last week about the projects and things that the Australia Project is working on in order to create new systems for us to step out of the old and into the new. And we're going to carry on with those conversations tonight and get some questions from our listeners. Where do you guys think this whole narrative went so wrong? Like, obviously it's been going on for a while, decades, not just 3 years. Their plans have been in place. Where did it suddenly go wrong?
You want me to kick it off, or you want to kick it off?
Absolutely. Kim, you jump in, mate.
Well, this has been hundreds of thousands of years in the making, hundreds of thousands. Not just since people started hearing about the Freemasonry, or if you date back to the history of the Freemasons, it goes well beyond that. Their whole plan has been slow and meticulous. They've got all the patience in the world. But as far as the last 3 years are concerned, all of that patience in the world paid off, because absolutely everything they did, the indoctrination into, as I said before, the schooling, the television, the 3 to 5 minute segments on television where they're training people's brains to think or concentrate only for that short period of time. By changing things around in slow incremental stages, that because it's not a big slap in your face, then it's not a big wake up call for everyone. So this plan that has been rolling out for literally hundreds of thousands of years has all culminated to this point now. We're just very, very lucky that we've had a lot of help along the way throughout this 3 years. And a lot of people have really focused on learning about what is going on. I mean, the amount of researchers that we have across the world now is phenomenal. People who have dug deep, so deep, and some of that digging is absolutely shocking to the human soul. But you have to learn it and you have to face it. And by doing that, it's opened up the awareness and the consciousness of people so that then you can start to project new visions going forward. But there's a lot of other external forces that have been complicit in this whole process as well. And things that we haven't been aware of for a very, very long time. And things that it's been very difficult for us to have any control over, even if we had have wanted to. But that's changing now. And that's why it's so important for people to focus on that positive future rather than feeding that negative timeline. Our timeline is set. As we stand right now, our timeline, our positive timeline is already set. The changes that we all want to see are already done. We collectively just have to bring that into the physical now. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim. What about you, Lance?
Yeah, so I'm going to say I'm so happy. Everything is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. Sure, there's lots of tragedy. You know, everyone knows my position on abusing children and violence and that. You know, it's completely unacceptable in a normal society, and yet it's pervasive in our society. So when the scumbag Captain James Cook came to Australia, what do we know about Australia? We know that they had no disease, they had no greed, largely they had no war, they definitely had law, and they were genuinely happy and also interested in helping, because had they not helped the first settlers at Botany Bay, it would have failed. And all the whiteys would have starved to death and died of scurvy and all the diseases that they brought over with them. So they actually helped people that were going to then enslave them for the next 230 years and put them through unbelievably unimaginable pain and suffering. You know, they tried to destroy them, genocide them, and yet they lived in spite of everything that we collectively did. And so I hold great hope, great hope. We've got this in the bag, guys. Now, it's not a time to sit down and rest. It is a time to reimagine where we want to be and create where we want to be, because at the moment we're limiting our creative ability. And that's all that's holding us back. We are what's holding us back. Now, this statement may surprise you, but I've given this a lot of thought lately. And as most things that I say, I try and back them up. Our biggest ally is now our current enemy, because even within their own ranks, the very top of the food chain tried to deceive them as well. So now they're starting to wake up. And you can see this through all the organizations like the police. So, Kim, what's happening with police recruiting at the moment?
Oh, they're not. They cannot get people to fulfill their recruitment programs.
They're understaffed.
December.
They're overworked.
Yeah.
They're leaving in the droves. And where do they come when they leave? They come over to the light. And this is happening everywhere. Now, as this flows on, and I said this a couple of months ago, I said we are getting very, very close to the time when the litigation will start through their bullshit court system, because all of a sudden the judges are starting to realize, hey, hang on a second, they betrayed us. You know, there's a very old saying, and there's a lot of truth in these old sayings that I've been noticing. Don't pay the ferryman until
he gets you to the other side.
Until he gets you to the other side. And what does that mean? Who are they talking about? They're talking about the boss of the bad guys, because he makes deals with everybody, but he never pays on those deals. And they're starting to see that now, all the broken promises. So they're going, hang on a second, we were promised something better than this. You didn't even tell us that the vaccine was toxic, and we've taken it as well. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction starting to build there, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and that will flip these people over to the other side. And so you're going to see in the future judges making proper decisions based in law. That will put us with the upper hand. You're going to see people that we thought were bad people doing good things as they wake up. They're waking up faster than the normies, because the normies just want to deny it. These guys are facing it every day, and they've been betrayed. So these are our perfect allies, the people that come over. Now, that may be hard to accept, but when it happens, we need to be ready to capitalize on it. And that's why Spyros's timing with this class action that he's got going. And we've got another beautiful action at the moment, which is going to get Spyros's affidavit into the Supreme Court of New South Wales in a case that the New South Wales government has a zero chance of proving that they have any right under law to enforce. So that's going to give us a massive win in that case. When we win in that case, we will be in a position to bring the whole house of cards down in every state in Australia. So when there's people running around talking smack about, oh, the good guys are coming, the good guys are coming, I can tell you guys, the good guys are in this meeting. The good guys are working these plans, and we're going to succeed as a group, as a team, right across the Australia Project, all the satellite groups, and all the other good groups that we're associated with. So that is another big part of hope for me, is that we will use their shitty system to absolutely destroy them. But we know it's a shitty system, so we need to rethink the way we do that when we get to repair it. What do you think, Ainsley? Should we open it up for some questions?
Yeah.
I just before we do that, if that's okay, I just want to add a little bit more onto that. I just want to say to everyone, this right now is the most exciting time to be alive. When you look at it from a bigger perspective, the house of cards is falling. It's going to fall all around the world. That means we've got a clean slate to build a world that we want. Never in our history, ever in our history, have we had this opportunity before. If that doesn't get people excited, I don't know what will, because this is the most amazing thing that we are going through right now. We're witnessing it, we're a part of it, and we're building it. And that's incredible.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim. If there's anyone on the call tonight that would have got any questions, if you'd just like to use your little emojis, your reactions in the bottom to raise your hand so we can see you, we can then unmute you and you can jump on and ask us anything, really. This is about talking about our projects and, you know, how we move forward in that regard. And if you've got any questions, please make them specific. No stories, because we want to get through as many questions as we can tonight. Just let me know and we can unmute you. Let me just have a look.
So we're not going to ask for questions, we're going to demand them. There's no shyness tonight, guys, and I don't mind what you ask the questions on.
No, me neither.
We haven't done this.
So bring them on.
Yeah, we haven't done this before on Triple Tap. We just thought we would open it up because we were talking about projects last week and we were going to continue talking about projects this week. But we thought we'd give you guys the opportunity to ask anything about what's going on out there.
Now, while you're thinking of these questions that you want to ask, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into some other things that are happening. The people's councils that are being formed around Australia are all being attacked. They're all being infiltrated. So when you see that, you know there's genuine fear that they're going to be effective. They're like, oh, hang on a second, these guys have worked something out.
Mm-hmm.
We better jump on this and we better shut them down. So everybody that's involved in a people's council, start to set your traps, start to look at the communication you're getting and be alert, because this is happening all over, guys. So this is the enemy living in fear. Now I can tell you 100% they watch everything we do. So and this is obviously making them nervous, because we've never seen this level of active infiltration. See, they've lost control of the freedom movement. They had their bad eggs, but all their bad eggs are shooting themselves in the foot. So they're running out of that option to control people through a poor narrative. So they're looking and saying, right, let's infiltrate these councils. That's the next cab off the rank.
And they're going hell for leather. And I tell you, as a part of the People's Councils, and actually, you know what? You don't even have to have a People's Councils up and running to do this. Go out there, check out when your council meetings are. Go ahead, join them. I know in Mackay here, we get 3 minutes per person to talk. And I tell you, man, are we doing some educating. There's been a few sessions on the smart cities, and from our part, they've been asked to go away, have a look at things, really do some investigations over the Christmas break holidays, and have a think about what kind of world they want for themselves and their children. So you don't need a People's Council for that. Get a group of you together, pick a topic, go in there, educate the people that you or people have elected to represent you on the corporate councils. Do the double-edged thing. Every opportunity that you can. It's well worth it, if for no other reason, just to see the look on their face.
Okay, well, we've got
Absolutely.
we've got Sonia who's put a hand up. So Sonia, I'm just going to ask you to unmute and you can go ahead and ask your question. So give me a second. Hopefully you can. Oops.
If you could also check the chat, Ainsley, because there's questions in there, I think.
Give me a second. Yeah. So Sonia, your mic's open. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hi, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey.
I've just wanted to ask Lance. Hi, Lance. I just wanted to know, with all the letters that we all, that people did ages ago, is there anything happening in regards to that, or was that? Can you give us any feedback?
Right. So the letters had a twofold. Well, the letters had many.
I know that was ages. I know it was ages ago, but I've heard a lot of people sort of say, "Oh, nothing happened. I think it was all just, yeah." Anyway, go on.
So let me tell you what happened. We woke up hundreds of doctors who left.
Yes.
Who stopped the vaccine process. That was good enough for the effort. That was the first thing. Secondly, we made all those doctors that vaccinated 100% accountable, because we told them that there was a problem. If they failed to do the research, remember the maxim of law, ignorance is no defense.
Yes.
So those people are backs against the wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've kept them all as evidence. So it's all recorded, it's all mapped, all the data's there, all the return letters are there, the responses from some of the doctors, they're all there as evidence. The time will come. We're in a war. Now,
Yes.
if you have a look at your history, have a look at how long the First World War took, have a look at how long the Second World War took. We're in this war so far, 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
3 years. So if we had already come out the other side, we'd be very clever. But we haven't. So I reckon that we've got 12 months of argy-bargy until we
we're
start.
close.
And still we start to see some effective change. And then the restoration work. Now that could go on. The trials and investigations could go on for 5-10 years. They could go on multi-generational.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's
yeah.
So it's vitally important. It was brilliantly successful. We got the strongest support, obviously, from the TAP satellite communities and the common law groups, and it was brilliant. We know we sent out well over 100,000 letters, which is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Okay.
Thank you,
Sonia.
Lance.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we had just mute you there. We had another question in the chat. I don't know, John, if you wanted to come on, but John's question was, are private membership associations necessary? Who would like to answer that question, Kim or Lance?
Kim, if you start that, and if there's anything I think I need to add.
Yeah, no problems. Yes and no. It depends. So private members associations at the moment are a very viable way to step out of society as we know it, out of the public and into the private. Now, there's a couple of things with this. If you so choose to join a nation, then my advice would be to join that nation. If you are a member of a PMA, that PMA can be going into an agreement with that nation. You still have the protection, but you don't have some of the same benefits, for example, registration, license, etc., those kinds of things. But essentially, you're still protected under international law. Now, there is some other options of where PMAs would be a really good setup to have the people's councils come under, because that will give that structure a level of protection which they wouldn't normally see, while still trying to step out of the public, so to speak, but not quite being able to. So a lot of people also will have a lot of fear going in to join a nation because they don't necessarily comprehend what that is all about. So in that case, a PMA would also be a viable option for people to operate under until they dealt with all of those fears that they have.
Excellent. Great, Kim. Did you want to add anything more to that, Lance? That's a great question, John. Thank you.
Yeah, look, Kim's 100% on the money. I don't know if I can add much, so I'll just probably talk a bit of bull for a minute. But
Kim's always on the money, Lance.
PMA is a really cool thing for the people's councils. Okay, we don't see them being massive, overbearing organisations like they are now. So we see communities, of a maximum of 10,000 people, and it's important that they abide by a code that they agree to. See, here's where we all get into trouble, is that most of us don't realise all the laws we're living under. So there's been a lack of education. Now, you come into a PMA and you say, yeah, I've read that, I understand what's expected of me, and I'll behave in that manner. It's a beautiful way. And if the intent of the PMA is to do good, then you're going to attract good people. And the bad people are going to stand out quickly. So yes, a PMA is an awesome thing. Now, PMA is used right through. So when you look at what we're doing with the tribes, the tribal elders are in a PMA, Private Members Association. You only come into that by invitation, right? There's no other way to join that. It's invitation only. Now, to look after the tribal elders, there's a board that's put together of ministers. That is a PMA, Private Members Association, right? This is the structure that we're using. So PMAs are a major part of our life. Now, the oldest PMA that I know about, that I'm aware of, was between God and Adam and Eve. So that was the three in the PMA, and they had to deal with each other. And they broke that deal, and there was repercussions for breaking that deal. That holy union was a PMA because it was private. So they're pretty cool things. They're well understood by our enemies, and there's something that we've never been encouraged into because they didn't want us realizing their potential.
I think it's important to note there too that a PMA doesn't necessarily need paperwork.
No.
It's really, it's a little bit like the trust and the trust agreements. Most people think of trust agreements as having some sort of paperwork, and you go down that road, but a trust agreement is an agreement of trust between people. And it is the same as a private members association. Yes, there are PMAs which do have paperwork, but then there are private members associations which also don't require it. And the tribal elders are one of those.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to ask another question here for this, probably before we go on to the next question. This is following on from the nation stuff. John's asked, could you join a First Nation without being part of a PMA?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our next question, we've got a few maybe mic shy people here. They'd rather ask their question in the chat, and that's totally fine, guys. If you'd like to ask your questions in the chat, you can do that as well, and I can ask the questions on your behalf. But you can also choose the little dots in the more section on the bottom of your screen, choose reactions and raise your hand, and we'll be able to see you. We'll then unmute you, and you'll be able to ask your question live. So this next question comes from Steve. He said, how's the bank and the communication platforms coming along? That's a great question, because I was hoping we would discuss that tonight. Yeah, so can you shed a little bit more light on how are we going with our communications platform and the banking platform?
Yeah. So real quick recap. The banking platform's completely built and functioning. We can't run it without a secure communications network because the government will just interfere with it. So, right, let's put that to one side. We took on the offer that was brought to us by a company, and they were going to build us everything that's a miracle. Now, Kim and Ainsley were part of that conversation with some other people that were in that meeting, and they presented to us on exactly what they were going to build. So we were told in no uncertain terms, it would be point-to-point, off-the-grid, military-grade encryption, blockchain, distributed ledger, blah, blah, blah. Then they started to talk commercial, right? The commercial terms and conditions. And that's when the warning bells started to ring for me. For the marketing platform, which is a trade platform for buying goods and services, they wanted 7% of the transaction, which when you look commercially, banks make all their profits these days in fees and charges. Banks charge about 1.8% of the transaction generally speaking. It's probably less for massive people like Woolies. Generally speaking, though, that's about the number. And that's big enough for the criminal cartels that call themselves banks. So 7% I thought was getting a little totally wild. And then we had, discussed pricing, project pricing and timeframes with them, which we can confirm because we're in those meetings, of around $7 million to roll out the first prototype system on Githable Narakbul land, and 100 million to cover Australia with the network. And then when I got into the final pitch, the price went down to 20 million. And I went, hang on a second, 20 million, what are we talking about here, guys? 20 million was basically server farms on existing infrastructure, completely vulnerable because they just disconnect you from the system. So, it doesn't matter how good your communication is, if it's military grade or not, it doesn't matter. If they cut you off the system, you're dead in the water. So we couldn't go with that option. Right. So fast forward, we've got Jeff from TAP Wollongong and Jeff Masters. He has brought two awesome engineers to a team. I found a couple of other really, really clever people with telecommunications infrastructure, one engineer and one tech. And we are putting together a project team which will deliver exactly the same package. Now, there's already one really clever guy who's got this running already up around the Sunshine Coast hinterland. So he's funded his own antennas. He sells radios which talk to a mobile phone, and he's created an app in the mobile phone. So you've got the whole power of a mobile phone, but there's no SIM in it because everything runs on the radio network, right? And we're talking low power output, not high power output like 5G, low power output. Now that's a simple system. We couldn't run a bank on it, but it's possible. Now he's built this himself. So I've invited him onto the team as well, because he's got the expertise of actually having to roll this installation out. So that's the plan. We will meet before Christmas and kick it off. It's going to take a little bit to get it together, and I was extremely disappointed that the other crew that we couldn't meet commercial agreement. That was pretty disappointing. But these guys, trust me when I say these guys wanted the lion's share without putting their hand in their pocket once. And for me, that's not good commerce. And I couldn't promote it with and try and keep any skerrick of integrity by promoting that. I just went, no, we can do better. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, really glad that you're all over that, Lance.
And
Yeah.
I think it's important to really push the point home too, is that anybody who really wants to take the mickey out of particularly the freedom movement, but anybody who uses a system or something that they have built to generate millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, billions of dollars for self, we will not have anything to do with. It's not who we are. It's not what we're about. This is about building a system or building an alternate process for everybody. We don't, as we've said before, we don't make any money out of any of this stuff that we do. This has to be humanitarian. We don't expect people to go hungry either. We understand that there is commercial business that needs to take place with this, but not when it comes down to greed.
Yeah.
And we will not do business with anyone who is on that path.
Yeah. So the structure was proposing a team of executives like you would see in any scumbag corporate operation, COOs, CEOs, CBDBs, GBWeebies, cleaners, whatever. They had the whole mantra, sales, marketing, I got to visit the moon with Elon. Everyone was listed down. On 100,000 customers, they were all earning $1.3 million a year for their position, whether they actually had a function to do or not, because these things tend to be highly automated. That was on their figures. When I run my figures, now that was 100,000 people after 12 months, all earning all spending $3,000 on the marketing platform, which was just way underbaked. We know that we're going to get probably 3 million users on this system in the first 6 months. So you take their figures and times that by 30, and then you increase the marketing platform to probably $15,000 per subscriber per year. These executives were going to earn billions of dollars. And I just said straight up, hey, we're not in the market of making more billionaires. We've seen that system. It doesn't work. Now, I'm all for people being rewarded for their time, their effort, and their intellect. I think that has to happen. And in any decent society, you still need reward for effort, because that spurs our creativity. And so until we transition to something better, I think that's an important part of commerce. This wasn't talking about that. This was talking about, making more Bill Gates.
Pure greed.
Pure greed.
Yeah.
As we see in the rules of the private investor, rule number 6 is greed and laziness lead to devastation. And we certainly don't want more of that in our society going forward. So,
No.
Excellent.
I think, I think just while we're on that too, I think we probably should give a bit of an update on where we're at with the investment, if people want to participate in being able to invest in the communications platform.
So as soon as we have our first project meeting, we will come out with a statement of what we plan to deliver and a budget. And once we've got that done, we will launch it for investment. And that will be along exactly the same principles that we've said. You'll invest through an independent third party in physical gold that's held in a secure repository. And it will be, once we hit that magic 100 million US, 100 million euro, you'll be earning, and we'll get there quickly, you'll be earning 4% per month, 48% per year on your investment. That can
And
go to
just-
fund. That can go to fund the infrastructure rollout. And you're building this with interest, guys. That's the beauty of this whole plan. And it's with the secure, independent, third party, all accredited, reporting back to you, telling you how your investment's going in gold. So
And-
that's a win-win.
And the infrastructure is
Yep.
going to be on the sovereign nation land. Is that correct? So that it cannot be touched or hacked by the government.
Correct. Look, there's a real possibility with the court case that we're going to run. It starts before Christmas, that in a very, very short space of time, we could end up with all of the current infrastructure being owned by the legitimate Crown of Australia, the First Nation tribal elders. But they're not all there yet. So we would pick it up piecemeal, bit by bit, and that process could be long. Because these people do things in their own time, as we all do. So we've got to have an option or an alternative. But yeah, if we pick up the fibre node in Githable, Narakbul in the next 3 months, we're going to take control of it. And if they start doing stuff that we don't like, we'll shut them down. So that's where we're headed with that. But we've got to be realistic. If that doesn't happen, we've got to have contingencies for everything. Because when you're in an active war, especially against your government, don't take anything for granted.
Excellent.
I think just to recap on what that investment is. So it was launched during our presentations. It's all about us, the people, having a say in what we have and what we do, and having an ability to be able to invest in that. So the increments will be either 100, 1,000 or 10,000, no more than 10, and only one of those amounts per person. It means that you get an investment and you have a say in what happens with that platform.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, I think if someone wants to invest 200, that's going to be fine. It'll just be in increments.
Increments, yeah. But the important thing is that the reason we're not doing it above 10,000 is because this has to be by the people and for the people.
Yeah.
So Lance has been offered a massive amount of money to kick this off the ground. It was 60% of what the value of what we were looking for the infrastructure, and it was turned down because never ever again do we ever want to find ourselves in a position where there is controlling interests that have all the say of what it is that we build and we participate in. So that's the reason that we're doing it this way, for those of you who weren't aware.
Excellent.
Yeah, and like if people want to do their research, we all talk about Vanguard and BlackRock. Get on and see their percentage ownership in ventures, right? 10%, 12%, 17%. They don't hold controlling interest, right? But they have enough interest and a reputation for killing people that go against them. So we've got to even be careful of when someone gets to a 10% investment in something. You always want to keep these investors in a place where you can take them out without taking down the operation and just saying, yeah, look, you're threatening people. Here's your money back. See you later. We don't want that sort of engagement anymore, because human nature being what it is, sooner or later, good people are going to turn bad for, whatever reason. So we've always got to be mindful of this. We don't want to concentrate investment. We want to spread it out amongst the mums and dads and let them benefit from the reward. Sovereign wealth fund, guys. That's what it's all about.
Sounds good to me. We have another question from Drew. Can you be part of multiple PMAs? And I'm going to add on to the end of that. And why would you want to?
You can have this one, Lance.
All right, okay. So when you join a PMA, there's a code of conduct, maybe a charter, ethics, whatever they want to write up. As long as those there's no clash in between the different PMAs, then by all means you can join as many PMAs as you want, but you can't be honourable in one and dishonourable to the other, because that would put you in dishonour, and that's not where you want to be. So my advice is you can join as many as you like, as long as you're doing the right thing by everybody. And there's many reasons why you want to be in multiple PMAs. It's just PMA isn't something new. It's a new way of thinking for us. So I'm in a PMA with my family, my children, and my wife. That's one of our private members associations, and it's private. So you can ask me anything about one. I'm going to tell you nothing. But we have an agreement on how we behave. And there's consequences if you break those agreements. So I tend up answering to Anna. So I don't want that to happen.
Excellent. Do we have any more questions, guys? We've got about 10 or 12 minutes left before we close the show tonight. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat box if you don't feel like opening your mics, or use the little more button down the bottom of your screen and choose the reactions, raise your hand, and we'll see where you are. Because we have a number of people on the call, I can't see you all. So if you raise your hand, I can see you. We can unmute you, and then you can go ahead and ask your question. Ask us anything. I think between us, we've got a lot of knowledge. We can answer just about any question. I'd like to think
I
we
know.
have a lot of knowledge.
But we can try.
Okay, here's one. Maybe for you, Kim, because I know you've been doing a lot in this area. Have you been able to source farmers for food? You know, your paddock to plate stuff you were working on.
Yes. So there's a lot of good initiatives that are rolling out around the country at the moment. Yes, we have been talking to farmers. We are yet to do more work in that. Unfortunately, we've only got so many hours in a day. I feel like we're already packing about 30 hours into a day at this point in time. But
feels like
yes, we are talking to farmers. Serene, what's CoVision?
Serene from CoVision.
Yeah, from CoVision. She has an amazing initiative going with her. I'd really like to see that one expanded throughout the country as well. I think it's based down south at the moment, possibly in Victoria, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would love to see is that if there were dedicated people to pull all of these smaller initiatives that are going on around the place into more of a coordinated push to get that paddock to plate happening. Now, I know in Mackay, we had an amazing guy. He created an app for our local area here, which I see is building in more and more all the time, with different producers, different people jumping on there and selling their goods. And that's a fantastic thing. If you've got
Would he share that up, Kim?
I'll have to ask him. I will get in touch with him to see if he would like to.
Because we can shoot that around to all of our TAP satellite groups.
Yeah, definitely.
And make it very easy, because this is a grassroots. Paddock to plate is absolute ultimate grassroots, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to be transporting food all over Australia. You want to live and eat local. And so it's about getting around your local area and putting together what you need. And I know there's lots of awesome TAP groups that put this, markets together and community days together where they bring in and share vegetables and all that sort of stuff. So the app may just take it to the next level and get it more organized. Then you can reach outside, because these are great. These are game changers, because all of a sudden you're interacting with the normies and you don't have to talk to them about COVID. You're talking to them about sustainable management of farm and looking after the environment and eating healthy. So, and they go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, what do you think about the vaccine? Yeah, no, never going to do that. It's a game changer.
It is. And I think too, with all of these other initiatives that the corporate government are rolling out, for example, your wind farms, your hydro dams, all of that sort of thing, people really need to start capitalising on bringing their community together. Food is a great way to do that, particularly when these initiatives start to impact the environment. Many people start to jump on board when it comes down to it, and in that sort of situation. So just have a look around your local areas and see what's going on, see what they're actually doing, see what they're doing to push you towards coming into a smart city, and have a look at that, how that's going to affect your local produce. Use those avenues to bring people together and start to come together in a common fight rather than a divisive fight of COVID. And it's one of the best ways to go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Before we ask another question, I'm going to talk about that for a couple of minutes. It's an interesting point you've raised, Kim, about the bullshit wind generators and hydro dams. If you ever wanted an example that the government's going for it, look at this. They're going for the full climate change narrative, right? They're bringing out measures where they're worried about sea level rise. Now, we know that's all fake news. It's all fake news, but they're buying into it because it's a good way for them to launder money, to take wealth out of the country and give it to their cabal mates who are producing the equipment. They're Masonic filth mates who are building the dams and supplying the machinery into these operations. So this is a whole rinse, wash, repeat money laundering scheme that the government operates. Make no mistake about it. Guys, they are going for it. They're absolutely going for it. If you think they're worried about white hats, think again. They're not worried about white hats. They're worried about saving their skin, right? And they're gonna take us down to the wire. It's up to us to say, we're not waiting on the white hats. We're going to do these simple little things to change the whole of society so the white hats can do what they need to do, which is, I don't know.
Whatever they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lance, Janine was very interested in the company creating alternative power sources in Brisbane that you spoke about at Caloundra.
Right. So that company's in Sydney. It's called Paxton, Paxton Technologies. Brad Paxton, he's a personal friend of mine, and he's just waiting on funding because he is talking about something that can solve the energy problems of the world, solve the water problems of the world. So there's a lot of resistance to him getting funding. But like all brilliant people, he's no good at business. And the technology is his baby. Now, we all know how new mums are with newborn babies. They don't want to hand it over to anybody. So that I've offered to fund Brad through crowdfunding to get him enough to get the technology going. He's got 2 systems built. They're with the US military. They're in Hawaii, and they're working. So we know they work. And the company that does the electricity generation on the output has just come through and said, we know we've got a 100 megawatt power station running, but we can upgrade them now to 200 megawatt power stations because we've now got better technology. So this solves the water crisis, the electricity crisis. If you can deliver clean, sustainable electricity and water to everywhere on the planet, think about what we can do. Right? There's world hunger gone. It takes about 16 weeks to grow most of your food crops. So we put that technology in place. 16 weeks later, world hunger disappears. Now, there's a couple of million people die every year from starvation on the planet. And there's a vaccine for it. What's the vaccine called? Food.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, we had one smart guy on there. I know that man. He's very smart. He said food.
Food is the vaccine for hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're worried about a virus that probably doesn't exist, that in all likelihood is electromagnetic radiation. That's what's making us sick. That's what's keeping us sick. And when we get the shits with that, we'll probably do something about that as well.
Guys, if you're loving these
Hopefully.
solutions, give us a few thumbs up and some emojis and some interaction in the chat. We love that. We want to know that you're really loving hearing the solutions that the Australia Project is working on with the people that, you know, Lance and Kim and ourselves are all connected to. We're working really hard behind the scenes, and yeah, there we go. We got some love and some little emojis down there. I saw that. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. So let me just, we've only got a couple more minutes. Let me just, there was another question up here. Another question from Drew again, back to the PMAs, guys. Are the government's bodies potentially running in PMAs at the highest levels?
Yes.
So,
Yes, they
so
are.
the government runs in PMAs at every level. Councils PMAs, state governments are PMAs, federal government's PMAs, the Senate's a PMA, the bars are PMA, all of these things. The clergy are in PMA, Private Members Association, right? That's how police,
The
Private
unions.
Members Association, or unions of private members associations. These are really, really simple, beautiful structures that can be used for good or evil. And it's just, it all comes down to intention.
It does. And I just want to say to everyone, if you go hunting for a list of PMAs, you are not going to find them. If you go looking for something that says the government is in a PMA, you're not going to find it because it's private. It's
Yeah.
not out there on the internet. But you know what to, you just need to look for keywords, you know, particularly in government, private members bills, one of the very classic ones. Local councils, in the Local Councils Act is actually something in there that refers to bodies corporate. A very typical term used in the private members association world. So you have to know the key words to look out for, because you will not find them.
Excellent, excellent. Greg says, love is the answer, but what was the question again?
Greg, you are right. Love is the answer. Greg wrote a little article, and it was well written, and he's 100% on the money. If we could simply get over our prejudice, truly find it within our heart to forgive people who trespass against us, and love our neighbor as ourselves. I'm going to come back to this, guys, and I'm going to tell you, I know this to be true with every cell in my body. The Bible is not about religion. The Bible is about law. It tells us how to live, to have a good life. We live the principles and the laws of the Bible. We're not going to have all these problems that we've got, because look at all the problems. They're everything we shouldn't be doing. You know, the child trafficking, the adrenochrome production, the worship of fake idols. You know, my latest tag that you're all going to get sick of hearing it, is the golden calf. We've got to stop worshiping golden calves. Ainsley, Kim, myself, Kent, Cole, all fully awesome people, right? We're not leaders. We're there to walk beside you guys. We don't want to be worshipped. We are not golden calves. If you think someone is a golden calf, you are making a mistake. It's not the time of golden calves, right? This is the time of warriors. So be the warrior.
Yep.
Look after start at home. Get your house in order. You get your house in order, the rest of your life will start to come together. Start to live those basic principles, and we change the world.
Before we close tonight, and I didn't think we would actually get to go for the full hour with all these questions, but we are going to squeeze in another question before we close off tonight, and that's from Donna. Is there something that we can go to councils with about the 5G towers popping up everywhere?
Yes. So that'll be the first cab off the rank for us in Mackay next year at our first council meeting. So Donna, if you want to get in contact with me, I will send you the information that I pulled together on those 5G towers. I'm happy to pass it on to anyone to take to their local council. So just get in, I'm not sure where you can get in contact with me. Leave a message on the Australia Project chat page. That's probably the best place.
Yep.
And yeah, send me a message and I'll make sure that I send the info through to you once I've got that together.
Now, I do know that a lawyer, Broomhall, took on the councils in regard to towers because it was the councils that approved the contracts for the telecommunications companies to put the towers up in the areas. And instead of going and taking on the actual telecommunications company, they actually took on the councils and informed the councils that they would hold them responsible for any damage that occurred from that. And the telecommunications company in this particular instance had already started installing them when they started taking it on, and very quickly they had to remove all those towers. So they were successful in that instance. So that is actually known to have happened, I believe. I'm not sure. I know that he was from Tasmania, so I don't know if it was in Tasmania or he did that in Victoria. But I will find that case and I'll put that in the TAP group if I can find that case. But I do know we actually spoke to.
I've got it.
You've got it. Excellent. Was it in Victoria, Kim, or was it? It was Victoria, wasn't it? And he was a lawyer from Tasmania, and he
yeah.
this case on. So if you've got it, that's great. If you could just pop that into the TAP discussion group for me, then people can also have a look at what they did to stop the towers through the councils, not direct with the telecommunications companies. So that was great.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's great.
When it comes to your councils, get your group together. Go to the councils about everything you're not happy with. Be courteous while you're there. Dress nicely. Act professionally. Right. The last thing you want to be doing is down there hassling people like the Cossack. Right. Because while it is extremely entertaining, and I love it, you know, a lot of it's just theatre. And it's not important, and it gets people offside. So when you look at any given council, there's probably only a couple of really totally corrupt grubs and some good people that just don't know what they're doing. So your job as a member or as a ratepayer is to educate those other councillors. That's where we succeed. That's where Darren's had so much success in Frankston with his team. They go down, they talk to them. They talk to them in a way that they can comprehend, and they get results. And we're going to find the same thing, what Teen and Kim are doing in Mackay. They're going to get results. They're going to wake these idiots up.
Yep.
And it's a process, and it's your life. And if we do nothing, we get nothing. And that's the principle of life.
Yeah. And I know in Frankston, they've had some successful move on notices reversed for homeless people, and also move on notices reversed for food trucks also down in that Frankston area. So they are definitely starting to have some wins down there. So it's really good to see. Sorry, Kim, go ahead if you want to.
And I'll just, what I might do is put the information for the 5G into the TAP updates page under councils.
Yep.
You'll be able to, that way anybody can pick it up and take it to their local council. But I will tell you that will not be until probably early January, and not the 1st or the 2nd either. So probably looking around the 7th, 8th, that time there, just so that you know. Don't hammer me.
Cool.
So, yeah.
For our listeners this evening, I've just popped in the chat before we close off. The TAP Project Updates is the new Telegram channel that is purely only for updating you on all the projects and the initiatives that we're either involved in or have started ourselves, because some of them are, like the councils and the trust idea. It was Spiro's idea. And so we've taken that on board as well, and letting people know about that. So go check out the TAP Project Updates through that channel, comment in the threads only, and you'll be able to partake in the discussions around all the projects that we have going on at the moment. So have you guys got any last words for our listeners before we close off, because we are a little bit over time tonight?
I do.
I'm going to go first, Kim.
You go first, Lance.
Look, I'm going to say a big thanks for big thanks for the questions and the support, guys. I truly love everyone in this operation movement family that we've created, and I love the opportunity to be in here as much as I can be. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Lance. We love having
And
you
I just want to say, we do. And Lance is absolutely right. We have created an incredible family and an incredible, enormous amount of people who support and walk with us every step of the way. And that's the key word, as Lance said before, walk with us. I think, just coming up to the end of the year, quite often it's a time of reflection. And I would ask that everybody just have a look at the last year and look at how far you've come. Look at where you were a year ago. A lot of people were alone in thinking that they're on this journey on their own. But slowly, as time goes on, create a family of like-minded people who understand who they really are. But just on all of the moments, the hardships, and also the happiness. Reflect on the families that you have built. Once you go through that process and really start to take a step back and see how far we have all come on this journey to date. Once you've done that, then start projecting the future. Start thinking about clearly what it is you want to see our future look like, and your kids' future and your grandkids' future, et cetera, et cetera. Really start to think about the details of the world that you want to build and carry that picture with you always. And by the way, if you do it in 3D, it's much more powerful. If you can see it all surrounds, creates a lot of power when you do that. But it's really, really important that you have that image in your mind. If you start to fall off the road or go down a track where you're not feeling so good about yourself or things for a moment, just bring yourself back to that point in time where you want to have a look at that future and know the importance that you are playing just by doing that. And that's key.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim. No truer words are spoken. So I want to thank you, Kim. Thank you, Lance, for joining me this evening. I'm going to steal the wonderful little saying that I saw this week from a gentleman by the name of Dirk. Lance, you're going to love this one because I know you saw it too. And it's the ABCs, and it's called assume nothing, believe nothing, but check everything. Be kind to one another, because when shit gets real, each other is all that we have. And I'm going to add on to the end of that, and pray daily. Guys, I want to thank you for joining us. We're not taking a break over Christmas, guys. We're going to keep rolling out these triple taps if we can, and get some more speakers on. And so I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your questions. It's been great tonight. If you've enjoyed this interaction, we look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week on Triple Tap. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.